Maybe you didn't have the woman you needed growing up, but along the way, God placed pieces of wisdom in your path, and one day you may look up and realize you've become the woman you were searching for.
Go. Well, hey, family. Welcome back to Rooted Vines. If you're new here, I am Maya, and I'm so glad you found your way to our table. And this time, I actually have a table. Rooted Vines is a space for women to slow down and return to themselves and grow through honest conversations about faith, life, healing, and of course, a good cup of tea. And if that sounds like a place you'd like to be, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that like button, and share this video to encourage other women who might need to have these conversations as well. And please join me in the comments because I want the table to be a conversation between all of us women, all right? And speaking of tea, which Rooted Vines is all about, I need to know what tea you ladies are drinking today while you're sitting and having this conversation with me. Today, I'm having Blue Lotus tea. And Blue Lotus tea is beautiful. It's floral, botanical with a delicate, earthy flavor and has a long history of traditional use and relaxation. It really does invite you to slow down, become quiet, and most importantly, be present. And it's a great tea for this conversation we're about to have. Because today, we're talking about the pieces of wisdom we gather from other women, the life lessons that teach us along the way, and the beautiful moments when we realize we've become the very woman we needed so long ago. So grab your tea, get comfortable, and let's talk about it. The house that Grace built. There are certain houses that you never forget when you're younger. You may forget the color of the walls that were there. You may even forget the kind of furniture that was in each room. One thing you will remember about that house is how you felt. If you felt safe, if you felt welcomed, and if you felt seen. There are homes where something happens to you the moment you walk through that door. The atmosphere changes. Your shoulders come down, your breathing changes, your voice gets a little bit softer, and you realize at that very moment, I don't have to perform here. I don't have to explain myself here. I don't have to be anything here. I can just be. And I don't know how many women can say that and say they've experienced that. But if you are somewhere and you've been somewhere like that, comment below where it was. Was it in your grandmother's kitchen? Was it in your auntie's apartment? It could have even been a friend's living room. But if you've had a place like that, put it down below. I want to know where you feel safe at when you think about home. And if you've never had a place like that, I want you to stay with me today, okay? Because maybe our conversation isn't about finding that place. Maybe we have to become that place. So sis, pull up a chair because my kettle has already been on, and let's have this conversation. Let's talk. If you would ask me how I would build a house and what grace would look like as its structure, I would say number one, there would have to be lots of space, lots of light and air for me to breathe, and lots of windows. It would always be mid-morning, the kind of morning where the day has begun, but no one is rushing. Everything would smell fresh once I lit the candle, and my tea would be brewing. And as I talk about this, what I'm talking about is building what we need for ourselves. Because sometimes we don't look at what we need and we don't look at the full picture of what it would look like if it was built. We have the ability to decide how many rooms we have and how much room and space we have in our homes. And when I talk about our homes, I'm talking about our temple, our body. We get to decide who's going to come in. And sometimes it's not always blood relatives. You get to choose your own family. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. That's what grace feels like to me. That's what I am trying to build as I get older. And the older I become, I realize I haven't spent my life simply trying to create that house. I've been trying to become the woman who lives in that type of house. The woman who makes people feel safe when they enter into her presence. The woman who doesn't require you, sis, to perform, but she'll love you for you. The woman who pours another cup before you even have to ask, because I'm watching your needs and serving you as well. Sometimes we just need a space to lay down the things we've been carrying, to be ourselves. And not a lot of us sisters allow us to do that. So right now, if you were to build your house and it was to look a certain way, close your eyes and imagine the safest place, the most peacefulest home you could build. What does it smell like? Who have you allowed to come in? Is there music always playing? Or are you just wanting the silence? Are there children running in and out and throughout the house? Is someone cooking? Is there a garden outside? Sis, what type of temple are you building for yourself? What type of woman are you becoming inside of your temple? And how do you feel when you're there? However you're feeling when you're there or you want to feel, drop it in the comments. Is it a sense of freedom, belonging, safety, joy? What is it that you are trying to build and you're trying to feel in your temple? Go ahead and write it down. Because I wonder if that word is telling you something about what your soul is searching for, if you currently do not have what you're looking for, if you're currently not living the life that you are desiring to live. As a woman, sometimes people ask, who mentored me? And that's a difficult question for me to answer. I didn't have one woman who molded me into the woman that I am today and that taught me how to build my temple. I didn't have a council of older women helping me and saying, come sit down. Let us tell you a few things before you go out into this crazy world. I really wish I did. There are so many things I could have avoided, you could have avoided as women. So many things I think I would have understood differently and moved differently in this life. Instead, I had to become a collector. And when I say that, I mean I watched different women quietly and I studied them, how they moved without them knowing. If I saw a woman with intelligence, I was like, oh, wow, I love that piece about her. If I liked another woman, the way she carried herself, I took a sliver of that. A woman who spoke eloquently. I listened really hard and admired the way that her words worked. If someone dressed really nice, she hosted people in her home. If I watched a woman walk into a room without needing everyone to notice her, I would take pieces of her and I would bring all these women home with me and I would try them on, change them up, and eventually I would make it mine. I didn't have one woman who taught me womanhood. I had fragments upon fragments. And I think there's something beautiful about that patchwork because grace is often learned in fragments. We don't get it all at once. One woman will teach you courage, but another will teach you softness, how to be a hospitable host, and some will even teach you about forgiveness. The woman teaching you has absolutely no idea she's doing it. She's just simply being the person that she is, and we are simply watching her perform on this grand stage. So what women helped raise you, teach you? Who is the woman who helped raise you without ever knowing she was raising you? Maybe she wasn't even related to you. The women I talk about were not related to me. She could have been a teacher, a neighbor, someone at the church, a coworker. It could have been a nurse that came into your room, your friend's mom, a woman you watched from the distance. Maybe you don't even remember her name anymore. Maybe you just remember her face and what she did. But I know there's something about her that you do remember. The way she spoke, the way she dressed, the way she loved on people, or even the way people admired her, looked at her. The way she handled herself when life got tough. And you don't have to put her name down if you don't choose to. Maybe you could just put what it is she taught you. Because I think sometimes we wait until people are gone to tell their stories. Maybe today we can honor a few of them while sitting here together by putting their names down there or what you learned from them. What I wish someone had told me at 17, when I think about my 17-year-old self, I really think about how afraid she was, how alone she felt, and how everything was going wrong. But I would also tell her that this is the path that she chose, and that no matter what choice she made, she holds value. And I would thank her for the journey, because without that journey, I wouldn't be here. Understand, sis, you too hold value right now. Before your accomplishments, before your career, before the love of your life. And I wish someone had really told me that. Because what feels unbearable 6 months from now won't be. I mean, heartbreak will make you think that you'll be in the same place tomorrow, but you won't. Loneliness lies to us. It tells you that this moment that you're living, this feeling, this emotion is going to last forever. And the truth is, it isn't. 17-year-old Maya needed someone older to tell her that. Tell her, baby, this is the moment. Don't build your entire future around how you feel right now. And then I would tell her, go see the world. Your neighborhood is not the whole world. And you can do it even with your children. Your community is not the whole world. There are languages you haven't heard yet. Food you haven't even discovered or tasted. Cities you haven't walked through yet. And your children will grow up. There are people you haven't met yet. Do not pigeonhole yourself where you are. Go and explore. And you will be supported. Can you imagine what those words might have done to a 17-year-old girl to push forward? I'll support you. Sometimes that's all a young woman needs to hear. Just permission that it's okay and there's nothing wrong with it. That society doesn't always know what's right for us. Now, if your 17-year-old self walked through the door right now, what conversation would you have? What would you tell her? Would you warn her about someone that crossed your path? Would you tell her, go to school, push through, don't stop? Maybe travel, see the world, pinch your pennies together. Maybe you tell her, save money, start that 401k. Or maybe leave sooner, stay longer. How about forgive yourself, sis? Because you only know what you know right then and there. Would you tell her how beautiful she is and how capable she is? Would you tell her that the things she's crying about right now tonight won't even matter a year from now, 2 years from now? Finish this sentence for me, sis. At 17, I needed someone to tell me. Put it in the comments. Because I think the answers are going to be powerful and help someone else. And there's some things that y'all are going to put in the comments that I probably need to hear too and be like, whoa, that's pretty deep. And let's move from 17 to 25, because the conversations get different in different seasons. I didn't need someone telling me how far I still had to go. I need someone to tell me to turn around, hon. Look at everything I was already carrying and say, baby, you're doing it. Because there was times I didn't know I was doing it. Nobody told me I was. For someone to say you're achieving it, you're moving forward, you're building something, I can see it in you. You can afford that house, sis. You can get that car. You can take care of yourself. You don't need to necessarily find a partner. That was something I had to learn and be truthful with myself. I was doing things, but I was scared and didn't know it. There's a difference between needing someone and wanting someone. I didn't understand that when I was younger, and I put myself in bad binds. And when we don't understand our ability to create our own security, sometimes we make permanent decisions from temporary fear. I wish an older woman had sat beside me and said, Maya, build your life. Learn your money. Create your own security. Know what you're capable of before you add someone into your life. And then you can choose someone. Choose him because you want to share your life with him. But do not choose him because you're afraid you can't build without him. That conversation would have changed my entire trajectory. That would have blew my mind. But I didn't have that. So I had to learn by living through it. And sometimes, honey, that's how our wisdom comes. It arrives with a whole tuition bill, honey. A whole tuition bill. You hear me? And at 30, I needed different advice. Now we got to learn to let go. Let go of the situations you put yourself in. Let go of the arguments that you might find yourself in. Let your need to make everybody understand go to the side and let it be. Because what matters is me. I spent a lot of years believing that I had to explain myself to be better. Surely people would understand why I chose this. And if I found the right word, surely I would be able to fix it. If they could just see my side of the story and why I walk this way, then peace would come. But baby, age has taught me something different. Understanding doesn't always bring peace. Being right doesn't always bring peace. Hear me, honey. Winning certainly doesn't bring peace. But sometimes peace comes when you decide the conversation no longer deserves access to you. You don't need to respond. And that took me a long time to learn. And I think that's where we're going to continue this conversation, because the house that Grace built required me to learn something I didn't understand when I was 17. I didn't quite get it at 25. And 30, I was starting to come in a little bit. That every person, every argument, every hurt that I have felt and every expectation cannot be allowed through the front door that I built to hold my peace and my grace and my sanity. A woman has to decide who she will allow, when she will allow someone inside of her. Listen, and listen to that noise my husband is making out there. Every person, every argument, every hurt, every expectation, oh, you're getting on my nerves, cannot be allowed through the front door. At some point, a woman has to decide what she will allow to live inside of her temple, her home, herself. It really did take me a long time to learn. When I was younger, I really wanted to be understood. I wanted people to know what really happened, what the truth was, what was behind the scenes. I wanted them to understand why I made the decision I made, why I said what I said, and why I felt the way I felt. And if someone misunderstood me, oh baby, I was going to explain it, okay? Explain it again and again. And then maybe one more time, okay? Just to make sure that they understood what I was saying. Because surely, if I could just find the right words, they would finally understand. They would finally share my emotions. Realizing that some conversations weren't bringing me any closer to peace. I would walk away more frustrated. They were actually taking me further and further away. So now, before I entertain certain people and conversations, I ask myself some important questions. Number one, what kind of outcome is this conversation going to bring with this person? Will anything actually change when we're finished having the conversation? And one of the biggest questions I learned to ask myself is, at the end of the day, baby, does this conversation even matter? Now, if that answer is no, honey, I gotta let it go. And that doesn't mean I don't have something to say, because baby, I got lots to say. I'm a Libra. Things are triggering in my mind. I've simply learned that everything I can say doesn't need to be said. There's wisdom in understanding and knowing that and practicing that. Are you carrying a conversation that ended years ago? A conversation that wakes you up at 2 a.m. talk about, oh, I should have said this. Oh, but what about that? You know the one, it just replays in your head over and over again. You've rewritten the script so much over the years. And you've imagined what you would say if you ever got another opportunity or found yourself in that position. Let me ask you something about that conversation, honey. If you actually got the opportunity to say everything you've been rehearsing all these years, would it give you peace, or would it simply reopen the door to the situation? This speaks to you. Just put one word in the comment. I want you to put release in there, okay? Because I'm going to need you to release that. Sometimes we need to make the decision before our emotions will follow. One of the fragments of wisdom I've collected over the years is silence. And I didn't always understand silence. I ran my mouth, honey. I used to think silence meant you didn't have an answer. Now I understand sometimes silence means you have enough wisdom to know an answer isn't even necessary. Everything doesn't require an immediate response. Every accusation doesn't require a defense. And every misunderstanding doesn't require clarification. Sometimes you have to allow things to just emerge on their own. Time has always been the greatest asset to prove what is going on. I've learned to speak with my voice and make it useful in the room only if truth needs to be spoke, clarity is needed, that healing is requested, understanding is demanded, and I've learned to be quiet when my words would simply add noise. And that's most of the time. I don't want to be that woman anymore. These are life lessons. And another piece I collected during my time was humility. I used to misunderstand that too. Humility is not making yourself small. It's not pretending you don't know what you know, sis, because you know what you know. It's not allowing people to disrespect you. Humility became or means that I don't always have to announce my value in the room. Sometimes my presence is enough. Let the people watch. Let them go on and say what they got to say. But honey, my character is going to speak. Let the way you carry yourself when things don't go your way speak. There is something powerful about being in a room and allowing someone else to recognize your value. I don't need to convince anyone in the room of who I am. I know who I am. And that took years of learning. And you will do the same. Another piece I took was elegance. Because, honey, I said I was a Libra. I love beautiful things. I do. I love beautiful clothes. I love beautiful cars. This table ain't that beautiful because I'm learning to set that up. But I love flowers and beautiful teacups. I am a girl and I love creating spaces that feel special. But the older I get, the more I understand that elegance is something completely different from having expensive things. Elegance really is how you carry yourself. It's how you speak. It's sweetness without losing your strength. It's knowing, my husband, you can be powerful without even being heard. I learned to think about my body as a gift, to wrap it like one, to care about it, how I present myself, to show up as though my presence matters, because it does. And so does yours. And I want to be clear, that doesn't require a certain size. You ain't got to be a size 2, honey. It doesn't require a certain age. You ain't got to be 50, 60. It doesn't require a designer label. You ain't got to have, Coach and all of that. It requires dignity and intention. Now, I want to ask you something before I go on, us being women and all of that. What did you borrow from another woman? Maybe a friend taught you how to pray. And maybe you just watched another woman set a boundary and thought, damn, I need to learn to do that in my life. How'd you do that, sis? Tell me in the comments what you use that you borrowed from someone else that you still use today. What's something a woman taught you that became you? I love this question because I think sometimes we forget how much of ourselves was gathered along the way, that we just didn't pop up like a tent and here we are, right? Another fragment was giving. I believe you should always be willing to depart with something on behalf of someone else. Sometimes that means you got to separate your money. Sometimes it's the time. Sometimes it's knowledge. I always say we are in service to each other. So we have to learn to sacrifice, open our hands so that we can receive. Sometimes you can just give an introduction. Maybe you just need to give sis an opportunity without it being monetary. Sometimes it's simply making room at your table and saying, sit here, sis. I think we've gotten accustomed to generosity when it comes to money, tangible things. But you can give encouragement. It's okay to give a smile. You can give someone information that took you 20 years to learn, so she ain't got to jump through those hoops. You can give someone 5 minutes of your full attention, and you can give someone permission to rest. Sometimes the smallest gift becomes the one someone remembers for the rest of her life, how you made them feel. Remember, it goes back to building your temple. And last but not least is forgiveness, and it's the most powerful because there is forgiveness. And this took a lot of work, honey, and I'm still working on this because it's easy to talk about forgiveness when you're talking about somebody else's hurt. It's different when you start talking about your own hurt. But here's what life has taught me, and I've learned a lot of things on forgiveness. None of us is perfect. So who are you talking about? I have been hurt. I probably hurt you. You hurt me. You hurt sis. Other people remember our impact on them. And sometimes those aren't the same. So I've become very careful about holding grudges, because if I'm asking God for grace for the places where I've gotten it wrong, I have to be willing to consider grace for the people who got it wrong with me. That doesn't mean everyone gets access. Forgiveness and access are, honey, two different things. I can forgive you, and I still recognize that you don't belong in every room of my house, or even in my house at all. And that's wisdom too. I can also wish you well and pray for you and send you love, release you out with doves, and still keep my door closed and locked. I don't need hatred to have a boundary. I can choose peace in my home, in my temple. If you had to name one life lesson that that you've learned, what would it be? Maybe yours is forgiveness. Maybe it's boundaries. Maybe it was learning to say no. And maybe it's learning to say yes. Maybe it's finally understanding your value. I'd love for you to finish this sentence in the comment. It took me years to learn. Go on and put it in the comments. And I hope you'll read some of the other women's answers too, because somebody else's 30-year lesson may become your 5-minute blessing. That's what the counsel table is supposed to be, a council of wise women. We don't all have to pay the same tuition for the same lesson. Sometimes another woman can simply tell us what she's already learned. And if we're wise, we listen. But some of us, we're going to have to hit our head a couple of times before we do. When I'm thinking about it, now that I say that, there is another lesson that I've learned through experience. And let's talk about this marriage. Yes, I had to learn that there is a tremendous difference between needing a person, and I think I said this a little earlier, and wanting to share your life with a person. I'm going to say this because this needs to be said, because a lot of people are looking for partners. When I was younger, I didn't understand that. What I did understand is I was afraid to be alone. I had children. I had responsibilities. I thought I needed a man. I thought I needed a man to help me build a life. And the interesting thing about that is I was already building one. I was doing it. I had all the pieces together, but I wasn't sitting outside of myself looking in at myself. So I thought I needed someone to help. I was doing a lot more than I was giving myself credit for. But fear can make capability or women thinking that they're incapable. Some of my earlier decisions around marriage came from need, not want. I was looking at what someone could help me carry, someone could do for me. And by the time I met the man who is now my husband, I wanted something different because I had built the life. I took care of myself. I had everything I needed. I was at a place where I wasn't looking for someone to rescue me. I dated with intention and I paid attention. I wanted to know, do I actually like this man? Because I never asked that before. Can we talk? What do we talk about? Can we laugh? Do I respect him? Does he respect me? Can we build in peace? And would I choose him even if I didn't need anything from him? I understood I was healing when it came to choosing a partner. And I think there's something I would tell the younger women sitting at this table. Build, learn, explore, understand your money, which is your security, and know what you're capable of. Create a life that you can stand 10 toes down in. Then love can become a choice instead of a survival strategy like I was using. This is my third marriage. It took me, oh honey, I wish somebody had told me that sooner. I wish I would have had the mind to listen. But I didn't. But maybe you're watching me right now and that's where you are. And it's okay. We all got to learn. You're staying somewhere because you're terrified of what life might look like if you leave. How many women can say that? I'm not here to tell you what decision to make in your life. I don't know your life. But I will ask you this question, sis. Are you choosing from love or are you choosing from fear? And that's with everything you choose, not just a relationship. You ain't got to answer me, but you do need to answer yourself. Because fear has made decisions in my life that wisdom would have never made. And a lot of us are working out of fear. And sometimes becoming the woman you once needed means finally giving yourself the counsel nobody gave you back then. Y'all remember when I talked about the counsel and the table? Because I spent a large part of my life wishing I had one. And there's some girls out here that have a counsel and won't listen to them. All right? You need a circle of women who have made mistakes, who can sit back and tell you, baby, you don't go that way. That right there ain't going to get you nothing but a dead end. Or someone to assure you that you're going to be okay. Keep going. Or tap you on your shoulder and say, hey, baby, leave that alone right there. I didn't have that anywhere. But something has happened as I've gotten older. I'm moving toward the other side of the table. I'm now becoming the older woman. I am now being invited into the counsel. And that's a responsibility I take seriously. And that's why I started this. Because younger women don't need me pretending I got everything right. Because baby, no. What wisdom would be in that to act like I'm perfect and I know all answers? What they need me to say is I've been there. Oh, I made that mistake. I know what that feels like. I thought that too, honey, and I was wrong. I stayed too long. I was afraid. I didn't know my value yet. And here is what I've learned. That's counsel. Counsel isn't perfection, honey. It's experience reaching back with compassion and sharing it with another sister who needs it. You cannot force wisdom into someone's hands. Oh, you can try. I got 5 daughters. You can try. Especially when it's your own children. When you can see the road they're walking down, you've already taken that road. You know where it's going to take you. You know exactly where those potholes are. You know when it's going to rain. You know that bridge isn't going to hold them. You know that what's waiting around the corner, and you want to yell to them so bad, listen to me. But they won't. And I've had to learn that too. There are lessons people choose to learn through experience, and you have to let them. Sometimes the most loving thing an elder can do is place the wisdom on the table and just leave it there. No chasing. We're not forcing anybody. We're not trying to prove them wrong. We just leave it there at the table. And when they're ready, they'll pick it up. And maybe one day, when they come back and they pick that thing up, they'll be thankful that there was a counsel there to leave something behind. If you're an older woman watching this, I need to ask you, what wisdom are you holding that you've never shared that one of the younger sisters needs? What have you survived? What have you learned about marriage, money, maybe even staying single and choosing not to be married? What have you learned about motherhood, about loss, grief, friendship, faith, time? What have you learned about starting all the way over? What do you know now that could save another woman years of pain? Please don't assume nobody wants to hear it. And I have a question for the younger women as well. Y'all don't get off the hook. You don't get off the hook. I wanted to ask you something too, though. Okay? Is there wisdom around you that you've rejected because the person offering wasn't perfect? And that's a hard question. I know. We see faults and we think they don't know what they're talking about. But sometimes we look at the mistakes our elders made and decide they have nothing to teach us, but their mistakes may be exactly where the wisdom came from. You don't have to repeat someone's life to receive something valuable from it. Take what's good. Ask the questions. Listen. Then make your own decision. Leave what you need to leave and take what you need to take. That's how wisdom travels down the line, woman to woman, generation to generation, fragment by fragment. It's a beautiful thing to weave together. Maybe that's how the house gets built now that I think about it. One woman gives you silence. Another gives you humility. Another beautiful sis gives you elegance. Someone comes along and gives you generosity. Another woman teaches you how to forgive. And someone teaches you what you never want to become. And yes, that is a lesson too. Someone teaches you how you want to love. And someone teaches you how you never want to be loved. And someone teaches you how to stay. And when it's time to go. Collect all the pieces. And eventually, without realizing it, you become the woman standing at the door. You became the woman you once needed. Sis, thank you for sitting at the table with me today. And if you're new here, I hope you'll stay around and I hope these videos get better. But make sure you subscribe and become a part of this community. If something in today's conversation reminded you of another woman's or another woman, share this video with her and please join me in the comments. I don't want the table to become a place where I simply talk to you. I want us to have a conversation one to another. And I want you to share your wisdom and tell your story so other women will also be able to read your comments and know that they're not alone. Make sure you encourage her because perhaps, just maybe, that's how we begin rebuilding something many of us have been missing for so many years. The counsel table. We can build our own table. And before you go, remember that our conversations doesn't have to end here at all. The companion, the table journal blog gives us another place to sit and have conversations, reflect a little deeper, and spend some quiet time with ourselves and God. You'll find the link below. And here at Rooted Vines, I'll meet you again throughout the week for more tea reflection and encouragement. Until then, sis, keep the kettle close. Leave a little room at the table. And when someone arrives carrying something heavy, let your presence quietly tell them, step into your sanctuary. You, sis, you're safe here. I'm Maya. This is the table at Rooted Vines.